This man right here is Lord Voldemort, in case you haven't been living under a rock. Anyway, a running joke that is directed towards the Dark Lord is that for all of his power and his dominance and his skill, well, he couldn't manage to kill a young boy wizard, no matter how hard the poor old baldy bastard tried. And it is, in my opinion, the main reason as to why Voldemort really isn't up there with the Darth Vaders and the Saurons of the world as the baddest villains in fantasy and lore. However, despite not being able to kill Harry after multiple attempts, he was still a pretty successful killer. He was directly responsible for the deaths of 17 people across the Harry Potter universe. Well, 17 people we know about. I'm sure there's a lot more. But in today's video, I'm going to take you through all of the 17 people and explain exactly how they died. So let's dive right in and start off with the first death, Myrtle Warren. So the first person on record for Tom Riddle's first ever kill was a Hogwarts student who went by the name of Myrtle Warren, better known as Moaning Myrtle, because she remained behind as a ghost and spent every single day since wallowing in self-pity in the Hogwarts bathroom over everyone who was mean to her. When Tom Riddle discovered and entered the Chamber of Secrets, he encounters the monster of Slytherin, which was a basilisk, and he used his Parseltongue abilities to tame and control the beast. He actually released it upon the school in order to purge all of the Muggleborns, and Myrtle Warren was on that list. She made direct eye contact with the basilisk, which resulted in her death, and was also part of Riddle's first ever Horcrux creation, his own school diary. Tom moved on to his father a year later when he confronted him in the summer of 1944, ashamed that he was connected to such a pitiful example of a father, in addition to abandoning him and his mother, which resulted in him becoming an orphan and his mother living in destitute conditions. His grandparents, Thomas and Mary Riddle, were also present in Riddle Manor that day, and young Tom viewed them in the exact same light as his father, as they too wanted nothing to do with him. There is no record of how the conversation went, but I can imagine that not too many words were spoken before Tom used the killing curse on all three of them, before using his father's body to create the Gaunt Ring Horcrux, another step towards achieving total immortality, while rejecting his Muggle heritage. Tom then met a wealthy elderly witch with a passion for rare magical artifacts, and her name was Hepzibah Smith. Now, like Tom, who directly descends from Salazar Slytherin, she is herself a descendant of Helga Hufflepuff, and was in possession of not just one but two of the most coveted artifacts in wizarding history, the Locket of Salazar Slytherin and the Hufflepuff Cup. Already set upon using high-valued items as Horcruxes, this was Tom's chance. He set his sight on them immediately. He killed Hepzibah, took the artifacts and framed her house elf Winky as the culprit for murder. Tom disappeared from her home without a trace and was never even considered a suspect in her murder. So if we move on to the fourth kill, which was a Muggle tramp, now after killing Hepzibah, Tom just quickly created his fourth Horcrux by killing a random Muggle tramp shortly afterward, and there's nothing really more to say on that poor soul because we don't know anything about him. But let's move on to the fifth kill, the Albanian peasant. Now, in Tom's own mind, maybe the minds of those who viewed sacrifice necessary for the prosperity of magic, all of Tom's murders had meaning behind them, and he kind of broke that with the Muggle tramp. So he wasn't really killing or torturing for fun at this point though. Despite killing the Muggle tramp, everything he did was justified in his eyes, and that didn't change by the time he encountered the lost diadem of Ravenclaw. So after tricking the Grey Lady, Helena Ravenclaw, into revealing its location, he took the diadem and returned to Albania, where he murdered a random peasant who just happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. He used this man's murder to split his soul for the creation of his fifth Horcrux. The murder of the peasants also confirmed that the choice of individual now didn't really matter when it came to creating a Horcrux. Only his choice of object had to have meaning. Now going by the name of Lord Voldemort, and in the midst of a full-scale wizarding war, the Dark Lord's next recorded kills were not only significant but extremely detrimental to his own being. Upon learning through a prophecy that a child born in July would bring upon his downfall, Voldemort targeted Harry Potter for death as he fit that description. After Peter Pettigrew turned double agent for the Death Eaters, he betrayed the location of the Potter's home to Voldemort, who travelled there in order to put an end to the prophecy that foretold his downfall. He encountered a wandless James Potter and killed him at point-blank range. James never really stood a chance. However, upon his murder of Lily, as she did not raise or even use her wand in defense and willingly sacrificed her life for her son, her death at Voldemort's hands placed a protective barrier over Harry, which caused any offensive spell to rebound. Voldemort then used the killing curse on the boy, which ended up reversing upon himself, disembodying him and resulting in his first downfall. Moving on to Bertha Jorkins, who was the 8th victim of Voldemort. Now, the Ministry of Magic official was on holiday in Albania when she randomly encountered Peter Pettigrew. Although believing him to be dead, she recognized him immediately. Peter, however, persuaded her to let him explain, and she actually accompanied him on a walk into the woods. Not a smart move, Bertha, not a smart move. He managed to overpower her rather quickly, and then he took her before Voldemort, who despite being in a rudimentary body, managed to penetrate the memory charm placed on her by Barty Crouch Sr. The irregular and forceful dark magic used on Bertha permanently damaged her mind. Voldemort believed that killing her and using her death to turn Nagini into a Horcrux would be far more honourable and respectful than keeping her alive in such a mentally impaired state. Shortly before his return to power, Voldemort was just existing in a rudimentary body that was sustained from drinking unicorn blood and Nagini's venom. He then occupied Riddle Manor as it remained vacant since he killed his father and grandparents. When caretaker Frank Bryce went to check the manor after seeing a light on, he was met by the Dark Lord, Wormtail, Barty Crouch Jr. and Nagini. Voldemort used the killing curse on old Frank, his first kill since he returned to physical form. Voldemort's detailed plan to shape the outcome of the Triwizard Tournament in Harry's favour resulted in the boy being transferred by Portkey to Little Hangleton Graveyard. However, he didn't plan on Harry sharing the victory with Cedric Diggory, who was also transported alongside him. Voldemort then instructed Wormtail to kill Cedric directly, which he did. This death devastated Harry as he felt directly responsible for what happened. However, the Dark Lord showed no remorse whatsoever. So I'm just going to jump away from direct kills and talk about a guy called Regulus Black, who died as a direct result of Voldemort's failsafe plan to protect his Horcrux. He created the Emerald Potion and left hundreds of Inferi below the lake. This dark magic was intended to kill, and that's exactly what it did to Regulus Arcturus Black. Regulus was dragged to death by the Inferi when he tried to quench his thirst after drinking the Emerald Potion. He managed to get hold of the Locket Horcrux before he died, and gave it to Preacher, who was able to apparate out of the cave. Mad-Eye Moody comes in next, and he was one of the characters that I always knew was marked for death, and that's because he survived so many encounters. He was a literal war hero, and he was also pretty likeable. He never really valued his own life over the benefit of the wizarding world, and during the Battle of the Seven Potters, Moody was paired with Mundungus Fletcher, who posed as one of the Harrys. When the Death Eaters attacked the group in order to kill the real Harry, Voldemort targeted Moody, as he believed the real Harry would be placed with the strongest wizard. Fletcher panicked and disapparated, leaving Moody exposed. Voldemort struck him with the killing curse, and he fell from his broom. His magical eye was found, but nobody could ever locate his body. After Moody, then we lost Amelia Bones. Now, Amelia Bones is a name that might fall under the radar when it comes to more notable victims of Voldemort. She was very outspoken about her views on Voldemort's return and did attract the wrong kind of attention over it. She was a very skilled witch and a very talented witch. Even Cornelius Fudge himself highlighted just how difficult it would be to defeat a witch of her power. It is highly believed that Voldemort travelled to her home himself and killed her directly in her own living room. So next we'll move on to a death that probably hit many of us, especially those who are fans of the movie, because Charity Burbage's death was, in my opinion, visually improved upon the book in every way possible. Her death was a clear example of Voldemort exercising his power and justifying his reasoning behind it. It also showed how he loved to prolong his victims' suffering before pulling the trigger or the wand. He suspended Charity above the dining table at Malfoy Manor while he conducted his business, as if she was just an object that was so beneath him that he didn't even pay attention to her. He obviously explained why he was about to kill her, as she taught Muggle studies and enjoyed everything there was to learn about Muggles. Her pleas with Snape to remember their friendship, and you can just tell the agony on Snape's face as he has no choice but to just watch her die. It's a really sad death. So guys, we're moving on to number 15, Miku Grigorovich. There was only one wand maker who was even considered close to Garrick Ollivander, and that was Miku Grigorovich. He was once in possession of the Elder Wand for a time and made it widely known that he was trying to replicate its properties. What he didn't do was advertise as strongly when it was stolen from him, and many believed he still had the wand all these years. Voldemort visited him in search of the wand and tortured him for its whereabouts before using the killing curse to end the wand maker's life. Next up we have Gellert Grindelwald in at number 16. Now, probably the worst mistake and insult to the character of Grindelwald was how the movie did him dirty. My god, it made him out to betray Dumbledore and give Voldemort the whereabouts of the wand, and he was left alive. In the book, it is Grindelwald's defining moment of redemption. Voldemort managed to penetrate Nurmengard and probed Gellert for the location of the Elder Wand. Grindelwald laughed and taunted Voldemort repeatedly and refused to give the location of the wand to the Dark Lord. He showed no fear and mocked the Dark Lord, telling him that he welcomes death and that the wand will never be his. In a fit of rage, Voldemort granted Gellert his wish, and a burst of green light illuminated the room. And in at number 17, the final death, Severus Snape. Now, Severus Snape's death was one of the most crucial moments in the entire book series, and many of you are already aware of that. Despite his unwavering loyalty to the Dark Lord, in Voldemort's eyes anyway, he actually wasn't, but Voldemort didn't know that. Believing that Snape was the true master of the Elder Wand as he'd killed Dumbledore, Voldemort would have to kill him in order to become the wand's master himself. Despite Snape trying to use a calm and reasonable approach to convince the Dark Lord otherwise, Voldemort kills him anyway, with Nagini delivering the final blow. So guys, that is all 17 people Voldemort has killed. If you can find anybody else, please let me know in the comment section below. I am human. I'm not AI, so I didn't search for this list in any other way other than the good old fashioned research way. So if I did leave somebody out, let me know.